Major concern tonight in the farming community over a dangerous invasive worm. A child rights expert questions Saturday's proposed march against the Child Protection Bill. Chukka Adventures is offering a summer packed with fun activities. And in sports, Australia has advantage over India in the World Test Championship clash.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Boeing. A caution tonight to farmers. Your livestock, your crops, and even you could be in danger owing to the presence of a new Guinea flatworm, an invasive species recently spotted here on the island. Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, spoke exclusively to CBC News about the recent sightings of the flatworm in parts of Christchurch. New Guinea is its country of origin, and how it got here still is unclear. The BAS CEO strongly believes it's the result of people trying to sneak animals, plants, or other genetic materials into Barbados. He's worried it could be a repeat of what happened when the giant African snail, which caused widespread destruction to crops.
I haven't really heard any official statement as yet from the Ministry of Agriculture on this. But certainly, these reports that we're hearing about these whatever worms or whatever, that are in Barbados are getting into the soils. A lot of what I understand though is that it can have important implications for our livestock, and that is something, of course, that we need to pay attention to. That Barbadians should not engage in practices where they bring animals, genetic material into this country without first seeking the approval of the Ministry of Agriculture, right, to ensure that they're not bringing in pests and invasive species that can pose problems to our local agricultural sector.
Well, the worms have been studied by a biology lecturer and researcher, Dr. Darren Brown. He's been on the ball when it comes to this alien invasive species. He joins us now live to tell us more about the dangers posed. Good evening to you, Dr. Brown.
Hey, good evening.
Can you tell us how this worm came to be in Barbados and the areas in which we can find it?
Okay, the worm most likely came into the island on soil or plant material that was imported into the island. Usually that material is treated before being brought into the island. However, these worms are resistant to heat treatment and can survive the normal temperatures that would kill other species of worm. It is possible that the worms may have, some specimens may have been brought into the island intentionally. They have been introduced outside of their home range in New Guinea to other countries in order to control the giant African snail. However, the unfortunate thing is that they are generalist predators and will feed on a wide range of different species. They don't have just a specific target prey species.
So generally in Barbados, where can we see the prevalence of these worms?
At the moment, there are two hotspots in Christchurch. There's one area in the vicinity of St. Patrick's and another in the vicinity of Kendall Hill. That seems to, those two areas seem to be the main areas where the reports are coming from. However, there have been isolated reports from St. James, from St. Andrew, from St. Philip, and a few reports in St. Michael.
How dangerous are these worms then to animals, humans, or plant life?
In terms of plant life, they're predators, so they don't directly impact on plants. In terms of livestock and pets and potentially human beings, they can be ingested accidentally. They may be on grass, they may be on leafy vegetables, things like that. And if they're ingested, they can cause nausea. Most flatworms do produce toxins that, while they may not necessarily be lethal, will cause illness, at least stomach upset, if they're ingested. The particular problem with these worms, which is a similar problem with the giant African snail, is that they can potentially carry the rat lungworm nematode, which is another worm that can live inside of the worm. And if that ends up inside a human being, if it's ingested by accident, or if mucus from the worm ends up on leafy vegetables that are washed and not in any way boiled or so on before being consumed, that can potentially cause a condition called eosinophilic meningitis. Now, that being said, we currently have no evidence that the rat lungworm is present on Barbados. However, having another vector for that worm is not the ideal situation.
Naturally, the question is, how can we destroy them, though, when we see them?
On the scale of residential properties, one of the category of areas where we found them quite a lot is on residential properties. They get into people's houses, they're on the driveways and things like that. On that scale, they can be treated just like one would treat slugs or so on. You can apply salt, you can apply vinegar. There is evidence that some of the snail baits and things like that are used can affect them. However, these worms, they can burrow into the soil and get away from any broad scale pesticides that are used, burrow into the soil, wait until things have calmed down, and then come back to the surface. And they do reproduce quite profusely. So one generation may be killed at the surface and another generation survives under the surface. Now, so at that scale, in terms of residential areas, you can deal with individual worms by using salt and vinegar. The issue that we are beginning to think about is how they could potentially be dealt with at scale, if they cultural land, that sort of thing, which at present not much of the literature actually addresses how to manage the worms on that scale. It's more focus on preventing spread, which is what I have been focusing on, trying to just determine where the worms are on the island, and then moving forward from that point to determine how to control the spread.
We'll definitely have to do a follow-up with you, Dr. Brown. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Dr. Darren Brown, biology lecturer and researcher. Thank you for joining us. In other news tonight, child rights expert Faith Marshall-Harris is at a loss to the motivation for this Saturday's march against the draft child protection legislation. In an interview with CBC News, the member of the United Nations Child Rights Committee questioned why there is an uproar. Ms. Marshall-Harris says the legislation, based on UN conventions, provides for both parent and child rights.
The fact that you say that it is child protection legislation doesn't mean that parents are not totally involved. But the point, though, that one has to understand, this legislation really affects a very small percentage of the population, because the majority of our population don't really abuse and exploit children. This legislation is about protecting children from those in our community, which exists in every community around the globe, who would abuse, exploit, neglect, or abandon children. And this is in relation to all adults, parents included, because sometimes parents are the persons who have done just that, abuse, exploit, neglect, or whatever. But it's not exclusively about them, it's any adult.
Ms. Marshall-Harris has debunked the notion that the legislation is connected to any hidden agenda.
Barbados has got to be the last country in the Caribbean right now to bring this modern child protection legislation. They've all done it, from here right up to the Caribbean chain, and we are one of the last. Because child protection legislation is one of the easiest things to pass anywhere in the world, because people have an instinctive feeling that children should be protected. And so this is somewhat unusual.
Parent and student advocate Paula Ann Moore has also weighed in on the situation. While she understands the right to protest, she's wondering what organizers are hoping to achieve with the action, as channels already exist for questions to be raised.
The minister has indicated that there's a select committee which is going to receive commentary from the public as part of the process leading up to the finalization of the legislation. So there is already a documented opportunity for the public to add their voices to the legislation. And I am certain that no one in Barbados would want it to appear that we don't want modern, effective legislation protecting the rights of the child. And my understanding is that Faith Marshall Harris, who is a global titan in terms of as a child rights expert internationally, she was elected overwhelmingly to sit on the powerful UN Committee for the Rights of the Child. She was integrally involved in drafting the legislation.
Summer is about to get hotter, and not because of the temperature, but the loads of fun activities which Chukka Adventures has in store for locals with specially priced packages. Wendy Burt tells us that the company which has responsibility for Harrison's Cave Eco Adventure Park plans to fully utilize its full summer calendar, especially given the rising numbers which the Tourism Leisure Project has been seeing.
All you can play is how they have themed it, and that's exactly what they intend to offer Bajans this summer, as special discounts are offered according to Leah Roach, the sales and marketing manager.
We have our zip line, we have our gully challenge course, and we have the rum tasting for those who wish to indulge in a little tasting of that nice rum we have. With our all-you-can-play summer program, it's from June 15th until September 15th, and we're offering 15% discount on our combination tours.
The country manager for Chukka Caribbean Barbados Limited, Andrea Franklin, says they will now be fully open minus the restrictions of last year. And while many may want to interpret it as a tourist spot, local engagement is always welcomed.
We always appreciate the support that the local community in particular gives to Chukka Barbados as we've reopened. We've had the support from day one, and we continue to see it. As Leah said, we are already seeing a number of inquiries from the schools as exams are winding down and summer camps are planning. We are seeing the inquiries coming in.
Ms. Roach also spoke about some of the other well-loved areas in which locals participate.
The kids tend to love the aviary due to the fact that it's something additional for them to do. Sometimes if you get a family group, one person wishes to add on the zip line to their tour, because you can do add-ons. If you just come and do one tour, you can also do add-ons. So say an adult who's with another adult and two children, they don't want to zip, but the other person wanted to add on that zip line tour, then the children, they go and enjoy the bird aviary. So it helps as a buffer to help keep the kids engaged and keep them enjoying the activities on property.
The faint of heart who don't want to zip line or do the gully challenge can go on a tram tour or check out the history of the cave. Wendy Burt, CBC News.
Thank you, Wendy. The CBC NewsNight continues in just a moment. Barbados stands with the International Labour Organization in advancing social justice and promoting decent work. Minister of Labour, Social Security and the Third Sector, Colin Jordan, signalled the island's commitment during the 111th session of the ILO conference plenary debates. During the session, he updated the body on the strides made by Barbados in the area of social justice, including the formation of a social justice committee.
With the function of facilitating involvement by social partners and civil society organizations in policy-making mechanisms to create a society that is safe and fair, thereby reaffirming our commitment to the values of equity, respect for diversity, access to social protection, and the application of human rights in all spheres of life, including in the workplace. We established a national minimum wage. This saw an increase in the earnings of many workers.
Mr. Jordan says the country supports the Director General's call for a global coalition for social justice.
This is essential for small island developing states like mine, especially as Barbados promotes the Bridgetown Initiative and the need for fundamental reform to the international financial architecture. Because of its tripartite nature, the ILO is well placed and indeed may be best placed to ensure the needs and imperatives of employers, workers, and governments are reflected in multilateral discussions on the cross-cutting issues of public health, security, trade, access to finance, and inclusive development.
Well, there are doubts tonight that the social compact can hold out against the external pressure much longer. It's the view expressed by Pro-Vice Chancellor for the Board of Undergraduate Studies at the University of the West Indies, Professor Justin Robinson. The first compact was implemented for the period July 2022 to January 2023 and extended to ease the burden on consumers because of surging prices as a result of inflationary trends taking place internationally.
These firms have been holding strain in terms of holding the margins on these items. And it's not clear to me that the government has a policy tool outside of reducing some of its own taxes or other levies on the goods so as to reduce the cost coming to these suppliers. But of course, those reductions in any taxes or levies also have knock-on effects on the government's budget, and the government still has to meet its fiscal targets. So I don't see any win-win solution to this in the near to medium term. And I am not optimistic about measures like the compact holding significantly longer.
The Barbados Association of Retired Persons, BARP, has formally filed its objection to the request by the Barbados Light and Power Company for an adjournment in the ongoing rate hearing. The group's president, Marilyn Rice-Bowen, in a statement made it clear that the request is unacceptable.
BARP members are already struggling to pay the increased interim rates. Last year, the Fair Trading Commission denied BARP's request for an adjournment to allow the new public counsel, who had been on the job for 3 days, to apprise herself of the case. At the time, senior counsel Raymond Aline said that every extra day would be a cost to taxpayers. We believe that the same principle should apply in this case. We at BARP offer sincere condolences to Mr. Aline on the passing of his father, but we oppose the motion for adjournment, and we acknowledge the involvement of another attorney for the firm, Senator Kevin Boyce, in the proceedings. BARP is asking the FTC to deny BLPC's request for an adjournment and to continue with the hearing as scheduled.
With non-communicable diseases a constant concern, one community-based doctor is playing his part to ensure that Barbadians are educated on their health status free of cost. Crystal Hoyt has the details.
A young Barbadian doctor is playing his part to help reduce the number of people suffering from non-communicable diseases in Barbados. He is Dr. Echo Vaya, and his contribution involves free blood pressure checks available 24/7.
Personally speaking, this was because my parents would have suffered from diabetes and hypertension, and I wanted to help decrease the incidence of these diseases in the Caribbean. So we started locally here in Barbados.
The owner of Trident Care Clinic says NCDs remain the leading cause of death in Barbados, but preventative steps like lifestyle changes and routine monitoring could significantly bring down the numbers.
Every day we usually see a distressing number of patients that suffer from high blood pressure. These readings would be above 120 over 80, and this would indicate a potential risk of non-communicable diseases. And at our clinic, we work closely with these patients, providing valuable guidance and recommending essential changes to their diet and promoting exercise.
Currently, the clinic does 10 to 15 blood pressure checks daily. He shares how he got started in healthcare.
So we started Trident Care to lighten the burden from the public system in terms of decreasing the strain and to allow Barbadians to have access to a 24/7 medical clinic.
Dr. Akavaya says he's passionate about the health of Barbadians and is committed to providing accessible healthcare. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
The Future Centre Trust is continuing its efforts to promote sustainability and to preserve the environment across the island in multiple ways. The Trust recently staged an open day at its Donation Nation charity shop, location at the Charities Trust at Little Edgehill, Melrose Road, St. Thomas. Director-Treasurer of the Future Centre Trust, Claire Worm, co-founder of the Donation Nation charity shop, with fellow trust member Lanny Edgehill. She talked about the significance of the shop and the role it plays in helping the local environment.
It was founded in 2020 with the idea that pre-loved items do not end up in the landfill. An opportunity for people to buy items at reduced prices, quality items, unusual items, and also, as I said before, divert items from the landfill. We donate proceeds, part of the proceeds, to 17 local charities. So basically, we're part of the circular economy. You donate, people donate, we sell, and then we give back to the charities. We've just expanded into this new location. We donated in the last 6 months, we just had a disbursement today of $92,000 to 17 of our local charities. So we do a lot of good. People love to shop here. It's fun, it's exciting. They'll never know what they're going to find.
Barbados Youth Ambassador to CARICOM and youth advocate Ashley Lashley has made a plug for young activists, telling a global forum they need the support along the journey. Ms. Lashley was among the panel for a recent World Heart Federation panel discussion titled Heart Health Advocacy, A View from the Outside. There, she shared input into several of the initiatives and campaigns she started, including the Healthy and Environment-Friendly Youth Campaign and the Schools Against Non-Communicable Diseases.
When it comes to advocacy and innovation, young persons do have ideas and solutions, and they just need the necessary financial support and capacity building instruments as well to ensure that their advocacy journeys continue, even if it is outside of cardiovascular diseases, health, or the environment.
Sports Night, brought to you with the compliments of Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL.
Now, when I say the big guy, I mean the big guy. The one and only Mark Seal joins us now. Mark, good evening to you.
I miss you too, Pearson. Very good evening. We're going to start off with some squash. Barbados were denied a berth in the finals, but they have secured a first ever bronze medal in the women's team competition at the Pan American Squash Qualifiers in Cartagena, Colombia. Last night in semifinal number 1, the trio of Megan Best, Margot Pro, and Amanda Haywood lost to the United States 2-0. Olivia Klein defeated Best 15-13, 11-7, 11-13, 11-5. Then Pro lost to Sabrina Sobi 11-1, 11-4, 11-2. Then the final match was not played. Therefore, Barbados and Colombia will both receive bronze medals after the hosts lost to Canada in the semifinal number 2, 3-0. Manager of the Barbados team, Michael Best, says it was always going to be a tough challenge to beat the USA.
They brought in the world number 14 and Olivia Klein as the number 1, and Megan represented very well, keeping her on the court for like 52 minutes. 2 of the games went to tie breaks, and Megan was delighted obviously to take a game off for her. And she herself, when she won at the end, she celebrated that she had won the world championship. It was a very tough match for her as well. At one time she was actually in tears when Megan won the game. It was a very, very tough match, fought in arduous conditions. Margot also had a tough match against Sabrina Sobi. That was going to be a tough match for her too, but she represented Barbados well. So all in all, we were buoyed obviously by winning the medal, by the bronze medal. But our main focus now is on the doubles. We're tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The girls will play Brazil. And if they win, then they play again at 7 o'clock against the winner between USA and Guatemala. The mixed doubles team of Amanda Haywood and Darren Brown, they play Guyana at 9 o'clock as well. If they win, they play at 6 o'clock in the evening against Argentina. And the boys play at midday. They play Guyana. And if they win, they play the winner between USA and Colombia.
The Business Report, brought to you with the compliments of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
In Business Tonight, we're hearing that Barbados can no longer depend on standard telecommunication systems. The charge was made by Managing Director of Neptune Communications, Julian Jordan. He told the Business Report national security should have its own platform since the internet is vulnerable to hackers. He gave details.
The networks that what I would call national security traffic. Okay, the traffic, the internet, and by traffic I mean internet traffic. That needs to be run and operated on a controlled, robust, trusted, separate network.
The IT specialist said cybersecurity is a global problem and more experts are needed.
The cybersecurity space is a new one, and we need more experts on the ground every day, making sure that the policies and procedures from a network administration perspective are best in class. And until then, we're going to be exposed, and that's the reality of it.
Republic Bank is pumping money into the development of local steel pan music. The move comes as Managing Director Anthony Clark pointed to the shared cultural thread between Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados involving the pan. The money is going towards this year's Pandemonium.
As a corporate member of our wider society, we're happy to donate $100,000 to making Pandemonium a ringing success this year. But it doesn't stop there, because additionally we are provided a further $50,000 to fund the Republic Bank Exeter Steel Orchestra to perform at this year's event.
Republic Bank is a committed corporate partner of the Cropover Festival, and it has been so for 2 decades, following on from its predecessor, the Barbados National Bank.
So it is by no means a coincidence that we have renewed and pledged our continued commitment to ensuring the most important cultural festival on our nation's calendar is given our resounding support. A festival that is eagerly anticipated annually by locals and tourists alike. A festival that not only contributes to boosting our economy, but also to promoting culture and camaraderie amongst our people.
Pandemonium is scheduled for July the 16th at the National Botanical Gardens. Another jump into the sports world with Mark Seal. Mark.
On now to boxing, where Barbados had double success recently at the return of the Scorpio card held in Guyana. Anderson Kingpin Emmanuel and Ricardo Babyface Bomber Blackman registered easy wins over their opponents as hundreds of boxing fans descended on the Mandela Avenue Georgetown venue. It was a fitting return of professional boxing following a hiatus of more than a year. Emmanuel in the red trunks got the better of Anthony Augustine in a heavyweight clash. The fight lasted under 2 minutes, with Emmanuel registering a first-round knockout. Meanwhile, in the super bantamweight, Blackman Jr., also in the red trunks, outscored Guyana's Terrence Adams on points 40-35, 40-35, 40-36. Promoter Sam Lane credited the ability of both fighters, saying they have a bright future.
We would particularly like to thank the IB Sports Bar, along with other persons who have contributed financially to the trip. We would also like to thank both workplaces for allowing them the time to go and represent their country. And we have been invited again back down because of their fantastic performance at the end of July to fight again, but we've also negotiated some other fights on the card in Canada, and we will see which options we will definitely close on within the next week or so. The guys have been back in training since yesterday, actually, and we look through the fights and we look at stuff we got to improve on. So we are expecting better performance next time out, because the competition will get even harder each time.
And that's our time tonight. Thank you for yours. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for visiting us. Now, if you want to see more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can always go to cbc.bb for the latest news and current affairs.